Everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about each of the zodiac sign, how they would be influenced by the Pisces full moon over the course of next 2 weeks. We have already gone into the detail of what the Pisces full moon will bring to the collective, both in the September lunation video where I went into a detail of it along with the geopolitical impact of it, and then in the weekly video also I have covered it. So take a look at that if you have not, just to take a overview of what's going to happen as a result of the Pisces full moon and what it means for us. Just few highlights before we go into each of the zodiac sign. This will bring back themes of 2015 in your life when the eclipses happened at this point, specifically March to November of 2015. If you would like to go back and relook at that part of your life, this is 28 degree of mutable sign. So at 28 degree of mutable sign, especially Pisces, there will be culmination, ending and release that will come with it. This is a harvest full moon. So new information which was hidden from us can also come to light. And with that will come conclusions and release. And we would be possibly creating something ethereal with this full moon over the course of next 2 weeks, which can be creative in nature, which can be spiritual in nature, which could be a product of our selfless love, which will grow in 2022 with Jupiter visiting these very degrees in May of 2022 and November of 2022. So this will be a key theme of 2022 for you as a part of your growth journey in 2022. And it will not just be part of your growth, this will be your contribution to the collective, especially to the collective healing that we will go through in 2022. So the creative breakthroughs, the epiphanies, the brilliance that you're having right now, that would come handy for the social evolution as well as the collective healing that will come about in 2022, especially with the Jupiter-Pluto sextile, which will happen in May of 2022. So look at the imagination, fantasy, creativity that you are exuding over the course of next 2 weeks and how to give physical form to that, because Pluto in 2022 will help you not just make a formal structure of that, a physical career or sort of a physical setup to it. It will also add influence, wealth and gainfulness to it. So that's what we are working with. Look at your rising sign, that is most accurate, and then followed by sun or moon sign. Sun sign I've seen most people definitely know accurately. That's why I always suggest to look at sun sign. The rising is most accurate to know. Moon sign is more relevant from a personal life perspective or emotional life perspective, but the combined effect of all three of them will tell you what are the themes for the next 2 weeks for you, all the way till 6th of October. My name is Charu. I'm your host on this journey. Let's dig in. Full moon of 21st of September, which will impact us till 6th of October, is coming with a focus on your communication and commercial houses. So there could be a project which is commercial in nature, which requires a lot of communication of written or verbal nature, which will come into focus over the course of next 2 weeks, where we will have to possibly bring to closure a written or a verbal project where you need to present your skills in some way. And with Neptunian influence, it's possible that you have to use some new kind of media or use your creative talents or your talents of psychologically knowing what the audience wants to present that effectively. And this requires a very imaginative part of your brain to be used. This is a right brain energy, especially because it's the house where Neptune is transiting for you. So very imaginative state of mind is required for you to step out of your comfort zone in some ways, which might require you to show some media skills, some creative skills, or present a verbal skill, which can be a musical presentation or a creative presentation or a spiritual, psychological presentation where you have to use the right side of your brain and the intuition to judge how the audience is receiving you in some ways. Neptune has been in your house of communication and commercial activity since 2011, and it has its positive. It has great positive. It's in positive energy with you, which you can tap into. The positive that it brings is that it's the height of imagination. So creativity, especially the one that can be used in expressing ourselves through words, it goes through the roof. It's like you literally can imagine a situation in 10 different forms. And because of that, your intuition about other people also heightens. Our sensitivity to our immediate surrounding, it's like you enter a room and you can feel it all. So it's great when you're trying to create something for the clients or for an audience, because you can judge how it would be received and you kind of have a sense of things on what the people want. So if you're in a profession which is client facing, or a profession where you need to deliver something to an audience, this is amazing for that kind of creative delivery. But the downside is that you can feel it all, right? When you enter a room, you can feel it all. So the negative vibes and the vibes of people and how they're thinking, there's a reason why most of us don't have that ability. It's like shielding our mind from the confusion that it creates, because it mucks up our own thinking process when our thinking process is so integrally merged with the person we are sitting next to. So your mind gets really bothered by the vibes of the other person, because you can feel quite intently what the other person is thinking, and it makes you lose track of what you were trying to say or create. And it also creates confusion on a logical way of doing things, because thinking becomes a little bit unstructured, if I may say, and that is not your style. So it's difficult for you to take. You like having a structure in your delivery, in your commercial activities. But Neptune is trying to dissolve the old way of thinking, old way of not just thinking about work and projects, but thinking about life in general. It is trying to erase an old thinking pattern. And in dissolving that, it causes some amount of confusion over practical matters, which you might need to face over the course of next 2 weeks, especially because you're having this full moon at the same time when the planet of thinking, Mercury, is going retrograde. So be careful of communication issues that can come with it at a time when you need to communicate something critical, at a time when possibly something related to communication is due for delivery. This also is true for travel and interacting with people from different sphere of life. It adds greatly to you, and it attracts, it has an attraction to you. You really want to do that, especially being on the sea. It somehow brings some amount of spiritual comfort to you, in my view. But at the same time, with this transit over the course of next 2 weeks, if you get an opportunity to have a short trip, just be careful that there could be confusion over travel and communication related activities during this time, because we are more busy in thinking about surreal things, thinking beyond norm. This is where, we forget where our keys are, but we are looking at a grand scheme or writing about fairies or something. It's like height of creativity when it comes to your way of thinking and knowing what the other person is thinking as well. At the same time, you can sense what the other person is thinking, and that makes you a great person to handle an audience or handle a client. And it also gives you that faith in some ways to go in front of an audience, which previously may not have been your style. So it is teaching you Neptunian skills, which is to use a very different part of your brain, which is the right brain. So the creative side of you is coming to action when it comes to media, when it comes to presenting, or the skill sets that you are using right now and learning right now and might be asked to present would be the right brain skill sets, which are more non-verbal skill sets, essentially sensing what the person wants. So when we are so focused on the right brain, left brain goes on a holiday, and that is something that it may not be new to you, it may be something that you've faced before, which causes misunderstanding on practical matters that we need to be careful about over the course of next 2 weeks, which also creates confusion over contracts if there are contract discussions that are going on. we sometimes miss our interest in those commercial discussions while we become too permissive on the terms of contracts. Very imaginative but tough in social situations where you need to look into the detail of thing and take care of your interests, because your boundaries with your immediate surrounding and is lower, and you become too permissive when it comes to commercial matters. You might also be able to use your power of influencing people to influence people to do something that you really want them to do. This is the positive side of it on how you can use it. This is like singers can enthrall an audience, you can enthrall an audience. So you can appeal to the soft side of your audience in a much easier fashion as compared to using figures and logic. And this is something that you're learning. It's a new skill set which will come very handy for you commercially when Jupiter comes here next year, and the commercial output of possibly the contracts and the creative work or the unstructured non-verbal right brain work you are doing right now, which could be a project that you're working on over next 2 weeks. The value, the commercial output of that will expand greatly with Jupiter coming here next year. Jupiter will also help you learn quickly new commercial skills that will help you in long run in self-made wealth. But at the same time, in order to get there, there might be some thinking patterns that we need to release from our thinking, and there might be pre-existing contracts which need to be permanently released, and we need to unshackle ourselves from those. And they could be contracts or obligations which might have started in 2015, or they could be 6 months old. 2015 is especially true if your planet's around 28 degree of Capricorn, which is around 19th of January born. So especially for 28 degree, it could be a contract that you started in 2015 and now you finally have to release to make space for something more lucrative, more just, which uses a different side of you, which uses this more imaginative and creative side of you. This is an excellent transit to create a creative output, especially in written format like a book. It's also a great transit for convincing somebody through softer skills, or knowing what your clients or your audience is thinking from using your softer skills. One thing to be careful about over the course of next 2 weeks, especially with this transit, sometimes information invariably is leaked. It is leaked beyond your control, so you have to be a little bit careful that some sort of a secret or confidential information can come out. So we have to be careful of things slipping out of you when it comes to confidential information. But use this transit to create the height of creativity when it comes to verbal communication, music, any form of creative writing and verbal writing which uses your imagination. You can use that next year, especially when Pluto and Jupiter connect together in May 2022. That will be the time when suddenly the commercial success of that can go through the roof. So it's a very good transit to seed something to that effect, or finally birth something to that effect. And you might need to bring something to conclusion when it comes to a commercial project over the course of next 2 weeks, during the time when you need to be flexible that the terms would change because of Mercury retrograde. Neptune in your house of communication also brings loss of boundaries with siblings. And sibling issue is a very, very tricky issue with Neptune over here. Either the sibling becomes dependent on you, or the sibling boundary issues, they come to focus, which need to be met head on. As I said, when it comes to structured thinking and contracts, you are too permissive. So when it comes to those kind of equations with the sibling as well, when it comes to money, when it comes to contracts with sibling, there are issues that need to be handled, and sibling somehow becomes more dependent on you or the boundaries with them. There's misunderstanding, a lot of unclear communication when it comes to sibling that can come to focus, which you would need to address over the course of next 2 weeks. They might need your help, or they might need to be bailed out by you in some ways, or there might be communication misunderstanding with them that needs to be addressed. The positive side, as I said, is the creative high that this transit gives you. It also gives very high magnetism. As I said, you can enthrall an audience, so it makes a very latent part of you wake up, where you realize that you have the power of convincing people, but because you can almost feel it. This is a skill set that you are developing, which you did not know you have, just to feel out people. So you're developing this latent intuition, which is waking up for you. And this process started in 2011. So some of you have been at it for a long time. And now it's the thing that people say, I can sense this is what they want. That becomes your expertise. Neptune gifts us with gifts beyond ordinary, and that becomes your beyond ordinary gift. And we discover sometimes not so kosher things when this happens, because we are able to sense both the positive and the negative. You have to draw the boundaries here, because the loss of boundaries is very real for this transit, and boundary issues with your surroundings, with the people who you work on a day-to-day basis, with sibling, they are quite real. So you need to find a space for yourself, because the mental state can be under confusion. It's like we become so permissive and open. Neptune is the planet which dissolves any boundaries. It is in the house of your mind. So the boundaries of the mind have been dissolved. So the mind is open to ideas from beyond reality, beyond surreal. So you can create something surreal. And when that happens, it's great for creative ventures. It is great even for client-facing roles. But, you become a person who can get very distracted by people, by your surroundings. So you have to be very careful with your surroundings. Keep your surroundings clear. Keep your surroundings clean, because you can be very easily distracted when it comes to working on matters, practical matters. So keep your surroundings clear and keep your surroundings beautiful. They keep them inspiring. The immediate environment that you have needs to be very inspiring. And with Neptune over here, there is a reason why the boundaries are being reduced. You sort of are also developing the knack of knowing who to have, who not to have in your immediate surrounding. So when a person is in your surrounding, in your immediate surrounding, if they're fake, they're not real, or they're there to hurt you or have negative vibes, you immediately sense that. And that skill set is being given to you, so you can detox some of that negativity out of your life. And with the current full moon being a full moon of permanent ending, there might be things in your immediate surrounding which could be related to your neighborhood. It could be related to day-to-day people who you deal with, or what communication device you use to connect with them. Maybe you need a little bit of distance with them to have your sanity, to retain your sanity. Or with a sibling, maybe you need a little bit of distance, and too much has been given, too much permissiveness has been going on with them, where your boundaries have been encroached upon. So it's the time when maybe some pattern which has been hurting your boundaries with siblings, with your neighbors, with your immediate surroundings, that needs to be taken care of for your own sanity. Be careful in terms of confusion and misunderstanding when it comes to communication, and with travel and communication devices. This is a transit which usually has people dropping their phones in water, and that is not just because of Mercury retrograde. You will have a higher case of Mercury retrograde, if I may say, during this time. The confusion will be higher, so just be a little bit more careful. Also, there's apart from that, trust your instincts. Trust your instinct and learn to trust your instinct. Your instinct is the biggest filter and the biggest superpower that you're creating right now. Don't ignore it. Uncanny insights into the undercurrents that you have. Use them, because it gives you a very clear big picture. It may not be able to give you the precise analytical output, but you'll be able to comprehend the big picture very easily from wads of data that is presented to you. Picking up vibes, picking up learning by osmosis. That's why cleaning your surroundings and the news that you ingest and the information that you ingest is so important, because you are literally learning by osmosis. You are absorbing information by being in the company of the people who know that information. It's almost like you absorb that information just by being in the surroundings. So if you want to learn a new skill, like you want to learn something in commercial skill set, self-made wealth, some sort of for example, in finance, you want to learn something, just being in company of a person who does that, you learn it. So having the right company and knowing that you have the ability to really ramp up your learning curves, especially next year when Jupiter will come in your house of information, you'll be like a sponge. It's one of those years which happens once in 12 years when our learning curves go through the steepest curve that it has ever gone in a decade. So you're going to learn commercial skills and you will get a lot of opportunities to speak, connect with people. So trust your instinct to filter out the ones that are not working for you right now. Don't try to hold on to something that is not yours anymore when it comes to connections. Too many things inspire you, so use this transit to detox some of them which are distraction for you, because there might be too many commercial projects, too many speaking opportunities, or too many things you want to be involved in. So filter out the ones that are truly yours, the ones that are not your ideas. They are ideas of somebody else and you got excited because they were doing. You will recognize them. Filter them out. Don't do them out of obligations. Do them because they interest you, because this is a time for you to do something that truly inspires you at a soul level versus just doing it. Even the commercial activities have to truly inspire you to be able to hold you. Similarly, you will be able to understand if somebody needs your help. If there's a person, and that's such an excellent transit to have in a helping profession, or even to make sure that you're volunteering at the right place, because you will be able to figure out, this is the set of society, this is the part of the society which needs my compassion. And you'll be able to give that freely with this transit. But just be careful that it is voluntary. It is you volunteering to help out others. And it is the compassion side of you which is being evoked, and it's not influenced. Because people can sense that we are more open to giving. And that can get taken advantage of. But amazing for charity and to charm people. This is a very charming aspect. It's because your imagination and your communication skills are at their charming best with this. This is also going to make a positive aspect with Pluto in your sign. Pluto is power. Pluto is about conviction in yourself. This whole process of trusting your intuition, trusting to use this different part of your brain, and also possibly an actual commercial project or a contract that you're right now working on. It is going to flow positively with Pluto, which is the planet of power and money that comes from having conviction in oneself next year. So the May 2022 transit of Pluto and Jupiter together in your communication houses makes you a person who can create a very powerful commercial project or a self-made wealth project. And this is especially true if your planet's around 24 to 28 degree of Capricorn, which is around 19th of January born, and around 15th to 19th of January born. This is very true for these degrees. Pluto right now is in your sign, and it is completely changing how you show up to the world. When Pluto comes in a sign, which for most people doesn't happen in the lifetime, you are one of those signs, for good or for bad, have been gifted with all of these rare transits, especially with having both Saturn and Pluto in your sign. It has completely changed your existence, how you show up to others. But Saturn was more about, changing through pressure. Pluto is more about rebirth in a very powerful fashion, phoenix moment essentially. So we are in that phoenix moment, and when Pluto goes direct in your sign on 6th of October, it's the time to come out with this restructuring and rebirth, which was internal to you so far. Now come and show this new you to the rest of the world. This is self-initiated personal transformation from a strong desire for change that you have undergone. And it might have seemed like this is something, why will I ask for this rebirth? But you did. You did for having more conviction in your life path, to feel more powerful in your skin, to not have anything superficial holding you back, to be more in control of your existence. And this inner conviction through a process of death and rebirth that you have created for yourself, that will make any skill set you acquire, any contract, any commercial activity you are engaging in, a success with that transit in May of 2022. The new personal power that Pluto is finally letting you wake up to, which has come through a process of turbulence, of death and rebirth, of your whole identity. That physical change, both in the way you look, how you show up, and your self-expression, that it has changed, that has added more power to your whole personality, more conviction into who you are. And now is the time to take that show on the road, to create commercial value out of who you have become internally, now through an external change. So Pluto going direct on 6th of October brings all the internal changes you've done within yourself, which was self-initiated. Now they need to come out and play out and be shown to the rest of the world. And that will happen through a process of rebirth in how you present yourself to others, how you show up, and it might come with a transformation in your career, because Pluto in Capricorn in your sign, in your first house, is normally the significator of a complete powerful change in your life path. This is especially true if you have planets around 24 degree of Capricorn, which is where Pluto is going to go direct, which is around 15th of January born. You are connected with your truth. So now is the time to physically play that truth. And that will flow very powerfully into your communication and into your commercial reality, with both Jupiter in your communication house playing positively with Pluto in your sign in May of 2022. And the foundations of that change, of that commercial activity, of that self-made wealth, of that communication project or a contract that you're working on right now, that foundation is being laid out in the next 2 weeks. And it might need something to be detoxed out of your life as an investment in your growth spurt in 2022. So that's what I have for you, Capricorn. Hope it was helpful, and I cannot wait to see what you create. Thank you so much.